Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power T Talk. From the Cathedral of Thompson Bowling Arena to the madness in March, we are breaking down the plays, players, and coaching decisions that make the tournament so special. I'm Zack, your host for today. Grab your orange and white. Let's run through the T. It's time to give our all for Tennessee. This is Power T Talk. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I am actually going to be doing this by myself. This was kind of an impromptu decision. Daniel is traveling throughout the day, so I wanted to get something out here, do a quick Miami of Ohio review, and then a Virginia preview. I feel like with the tournament being on a Friday afternoon for Tennessee, not a lot of people would have podcasts out, so I figured this would be a good little time to talk, just get some thoughts out there and everything. I first want to say, we should probably take a moment and reflect that this is the fifth straight year that Tennessee has won an NCAA tournament game. When you consider where the program was when Rick Barnes took over, when you consider the history of Tennessee basketball, I think it needs to be said that that's an impressive accomplishment. And yes, for a Duke, for a Kansas, North Carolina, the Blue Bloods, Kentucky, probably not something that they celebrate. Definitely not something they hang banners for. But when you're Tennessee and you're a high-level Power 5 program, but not the tippy top, I think it should be noted that you've won 5 straight games, or at least had 5 straight tournaments you've won a game in. And then they've done 7 out of 8. So they've won at least one NCAA tournament game, 7 out of the last 8 tournaments. I think that's really impressive for this team. I think it should be complimented for the program. I think Rick should be complimented as well. So I wanted to congratulate the program first on accomplishing that. I think that should be noted. Reviewing the Miami, Ohio game, I was really impressed. I was really impressed that Tennessee dominated that game for 35 out of 40 minutes. So the first 5 minutes, Miami does a great job of getting some good looks. They start out the game high. I think they hit their first 3 from deep. Then they hit, I think, 3 other twos. They started out, I think, like 6 of 8 to start the game, a couple turnovers. Tennessee weathers the storm, and then Jacoby Gillespie cooks. He was phenomenal. I was impressed with the defensive performance and some of the game planning that Rick and his staff did. We'll get to that in a second. But I just want to shout out Jacoby Gillespie because that might be the most impressive performance by a ball player in the tournament under Barnes that's not Dalton Connect. 29 points off 21 shots, 6 of 11 from 3. Then you add 9 assists to only 3 turnovers. He was the entire offense. Like, Estrella had some moments inside the paint that need to be noted. He had a good game, but he really was the entire offense. He had complete control of it. His ability to make the right decisions with the ball in his hands was outstanding. They ran more pick and roll for him today. He flummoxed Miami of Ohio the entire game with his decision-making, with his ability to finish around the lane. That's something he struggled with against bigger defenders. Miami of Ohio is not very big, but really did a great job being able to hit some tough shots, got to the free throw line a good bit. He was awesome. And when his 3-point shot's cooking like that, he's truly an elite game-changing guard. 3 steals. I thought he gave fantastic effort defensively throughout the ball game. And when you figure Nate doesn't have it at all last night, and he has 0 points, they absolutely had to have this performance. He was stellar. Gillespie was incredible, and I don't know with how transfers work. Like, Kennett was the SEC Player of the Year, so he's become beloved. I hope Jacoby gets his flowers as one of the best players we've had in the last, I would say, in the Barnes era. You could make a case for him under Barnes. He's like the first team point guard with Zakai. Like, him and Zakai are the 2 guards, maybe Lanier, because Gillespie's been incredible this year. And when you consider how much they've struggled offensively because of the lack of spacing, this has not really been a great team built for him. and it hasn't mattered. He's been phenomenal. So I wanted to shout out his performance because without him, this would have been a much closer game. And he did a great job taking over. I was really impressed with him. And defensively, again, it needs to be noted, like I thought he gave Miami of Ohio some problems with his ball pressure. And to play 36 minutes like that and still have something at the end, to me, is pretty impressive. So I want to applaud Rick for a very smart, strategic decisions, multiple decisions, actually, on the defensive end. I thought their game plan was phenomenal. Miami cooks the first 5 minutes of the game. They go 13-10. They start 5-7 floor. I think they ended up like 6-9 from the floor. Had a couple turnovers, unforced, I would call them. But I really was impressed that Rick adjusted his overall defensive philosophy. So Tennessee, you could tell from the beginning, was not going to pack the paint. They were going to have all 5 guys guard the perimeter and play out up to 30 feet. Not something Rick normally does. Other thing he normally doesn't do is switch on ball screens. They switched a lot in this game. I don't have like specific numbers, but you could tell they switched more than they normally do. And they were way more willing to go over screens off ball instead of under. Tennessee normally likes to go under screens when it comes to off ball screens, baseline screens, things like that, floppy sets, those type of things. Tennessee went over. They were determined not to let Miami, Ohio get good looks from 3. And I thought the turning point in the game, and it's hard to say there's a turning point when Tennessee really dominated from the 15-minute mark, but Rick takes out both Okpara and Estrella and just goes with Jalen Carey at the 5 and plays smaller. They initially took Nate out as well, and they went with Evans and Berg to go with Boswell and Gillespie. So they went super small. What this did for them was be able to match up a little bit better in transition, which there wasn't much transition for Miami, Ohio, because Tennessee really controlled the game. But they were able to switch a little bit more. They were able to fight through the off-ball screens, take away the backdoor cuts, stuff that Miami, Ohio has done really well throughout the year. I thought that was really good. Then they had Ament play the 4, which Ament offensively did nothing. But defensively, he gave some good effort. And they were able to keep the length and the rebounding without losing their defensive capabilities. And that was, I thought, really important. Miami, Ohio is a really small basketball team. So for them to be able to have that ability to play Nate at the 4 and keep their rebounding up, they only allowed 8 offensive rebounds, which is I think pretty good considering, Miami, Ohio shoots a lot of threes. Usually if a team shoots a lot of threes, they're more likely to get offensive rebounds because it's just how the spacing works. But I thought they did a really good job being able to control the game defensively with being able to match their motion, being able to switch a little bit more, guard, basically pick up at half court. That's basically what Tennessee did, which is not something Tennessee normally does. They like to pack the paint. They'll live with you taking threes. Miami, Ohio was 7 of 29, 24%. You really can't beat that. And then they're 12 of 25 from 2-point range, which you're like, that's probably okay against a mid-major. Miami, Ohio usually shoots around 59, 60% from 2. They're one of the best teams in the country, especially with Peter Suter, at getting good looks, hitting mid-range shots, backdoor cuts, baseline cuts, being able to get stuff out of their half-court sets that give them easy looks inside the perimeter. Tennessee did a great job holding them to 12 to 25. So I was really impressed with that. You could tell Miami was really flustered because they couldn't get into certain sets to free up shooters. Really, the only offense they had that Tennessee didn't have an answer for was Peter Suter isolations, and he's a phenomenal player. He's been a fantastic player. He was the MAC Player of the Year. I mean, he had 27 points on 12 shots. He was 9 of 10 from the free throw line. Like, he was their only offense. And even then, they still forced 3 turnovers, against Miami, Ohio. So I really thought Tennessee's defensive game plan, I thought Rick and his staff did a wonderful job. The other thing I would say is Tennessee established a physicality to the game from the very beginning. Nothing dirty, nothing illegal. But when you're able to establish physicality at the beginning of the game, it's much easier to maintain it throughout. One, because the referees will see that physicality at the beginning. They're not going to call 7 fouls in 5 minutes unless you're Doug Shows, right? So they're going to be able to let you play a little bit more. So when you establish how physical you're going to be from the beginning, you're able to get away with a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit more of a physical game. I thought that was really important because even though Miami, Ohio is a excellent offensive team, they're not very big. Their tallest rotation guy is 6'9". He's 245. Antoine Woolfolk, who really didn't do much in this game. So when you're able to establish that, when you're able to be physical on off ball, when you're able to stay connected on ball screens, when you're able to pick up half court and put a hand on a guy and be able to move your feet as well as Tennessee did, especially Boswell and Evans, the refs are going to let you play. And you could kind of tell they did that. Tennessee only shot 10 free throws. Miami, Ohio shot 14 free throws. And Suter had 10 of Miami, Ohio's free throws. So Tennessee was really able to establish that, and that favored them. That was very important because Miami, Ohio, Travis Steele mentioned it multiple times, did not match their physicality, especially on the defensive end for them. So really good job making sure that comes out. To defensively being able to establish that from the get-go. They'll have to do that against Virginia. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Not a perfect game, pretty close. I would say that was one of the 3 best games Tennessee's played this year when you consider, I think Miami, Ohio is a good basketball team. I know the advanced numbers say they are about as mid of a high-end mid-major as you can be. But I thought that's a good team. You saw what they did to SMU. Turnovers, major concern. 24.4% turnover rate in this game. 16 turnovers, especially when you consider the pace and that Tennessee shot 56.4% from 2, 45% from 3 on 20 attempts. You can't have 16 turnovers. And what's kind of sucks is Tennessee had 19 assists on 31 of their buckets. Like, that's pretty good, but you really negate some of that with 16 turnovers. They don't score enough to have that. I don't want to say lucky. They were able to overcome it because they played such tough defense, and Miami, Ohio does not really push the ball in transition. Moving forward, that's something they're going to have to clean up, and it's been a problem all year. I thought Boswell had a lot of strong moments defensively. He does not do enough on the offensive end to justify 4 turnovers. That can't happen. I know Nate's hurt, but he's got to be stronger with the ball. Too many times he's dribbling with no plan. He's got to be better about what he wants to do when he gets the ball in his hands. And I will also say they're not going to win another tournament game with him scoring 0 points. He's got to find his rhythm. And even if that means stretching the floor, going to the corner or the wing, and just taking 6 threes, hoping he hits a couple, that's better than I think what they've seen from him, where he's trying to play into the offense. They're trying to get into some of his spots, but he doesn't look comfortable. He doesn't look confident at all. I would say I would rather him be a pick and pop guy. Run some 1-4 ball screens with him and Jacoby and just let him pop to the 3-pointer. What's going on right now the last couple of games with him has not been good enough. And I'm not blaming him or the coaching staff because it's really hard when your 5-star freshman that you rely so much offensively gets hurt and he wants to play, but he's compromised. You're asking to adjust a lot on the fly, but I believe against Virginia, they're going to have to come up with a little better game plan. A couple shutouts for this game outside of Jacoby Gillespie. I thought Ethan Berg played really well. And I think you could tell Barnes is trusting him more. He got 23 minutes tonight. Had that crazy pull-up 3 to end the half that gave Tennessee a little bit more of a cushion. Had an open corner 3. Only didn't have a turnover. No turnovers from him. I thought defensively he gave really good effort tonight. Maybe his best defensive game of the year. He's decisive. He's been more decisive moving the ball. I really liked what I saw from him. And they need him. They need him because he at least has shown the capability to hit some open threes. So getting 2 threes from him, he had 8 points overall, or 7 points, excuse me. Only 1 assist, but I'll take that. 23 minutes, good basketball from him. They absolutely need that. Estrella deserves a lot of credit. I thought this was his best game defensively. I thought he really did a great job moving his feet and communicating. He had some tough matchups tonight. He puts up 14-10. He guarded his ass off. He was contesting to the perimeter. Really liked some of the the ability for him to shut off some drives that when Miami Ohio got free on some stuff. Great job. I really was impressed with that. And also credit to the coaching staff. Jalen Carey only played 6 minutes. And I don't know if this was matchup particular or if they decided they need to go with Estrella and Akpara 30 minutes a night. He played, I think, 4 minutes kind of the start, and when they went to the small lineup with him at the 5, and then he didn't play much the rest of the game. So I think that's the right decision. I think playing more men at the 4, even Amari at the 4 when they have Berg and Boswell in, is more advantageous for this team right now. So good job by the coaching staff with their rotations. They really tightened it up tonight. Brown got 8 minutes. Carey got 6. And then Abram Henderson played a minute right at the final when the game was out of reach in the final minute. Really weird Clarence Masamba final minute at the end of the first half. Had to do a triple take. I knew who it was. Like, I know who number 4 is. I know that's Masamba, but I was like, why is that not Henderson? Why is that not Abram? Could Evans not play another minute? I didn't know why he was out there end of the first half. Not that it mattered, but just kind of funny. That was really interesting. And I want to say on the Berg 3 real quick, Miami Ohio scored 2 quick buckets in the final minute when they took Jacoby out to give him a breather, which I thought was the right decision by Rick. I think he had to do that. That 3 was huge by Berg to keep it right around the 17-20 mark. So that was a really good job by Ethan. Like, it was not pretty, but to keep that 51-30, made it 51-30. It was 48-30 when Miami Ohio hit a couple of buckets. So, like I said, fantastic job by the Vols today or last night. Really impressive overall game. Like I said, I think that's one of their 3 best games of the year. I think their best overall game is still Alabama on the road and probably then the Houston game in the Players Tournament. Those are the 2 best, but this was the 3rd best in my opinion. You know, there was one point I think some people were saying, Miami Ohio's not any good. Like, they're not a good team. Tennessee clearly was the better basketball team. And they really tightened up defensively. They just didn't let things hit. Other than the first 5 minutes, and even then, a couple of those were magnet balls, to be honest. I thought they were pretty well contested. Tennessee's defense was just outstanding. And I would say they play defense like that, they got a chance to make more noise in the tournament. So really good job. Great season by Miami Ohio. Travis Steele's done a wonderful job with that program. So really happy with what Tennessee showed. Excellent win. And then, you survive another day and you get to play Virginia next. All right. Previewing Virginia. Pretty close game for them on Friday. They won 82-73. That score was a little bit closer. Like, they pulled away in the 4th, hit some free throws. But, I mean, Wright State had a couple possessions in the final 2 minutes, I believe, or at least at the under 4 mark. Wright State gave them a really close game. Virginia did win. Really what saved them was their 3-point shooting. They went 13-26. Wright State actually went 13-31, so they shot the ball well too. But Jakari White, one of their seniors from North Dakota State, really saved them. He was 6 of 8 from 3 at 26 points in 24 minutes. And they're a really good team, Virginia is. Right now they're 14th on KenPom. Tennessee's 16th, I believe, at the moment. So it's, if you look at the matchup against Virginia, it's basically dead even. So actually, if you look at it, Tennessee's 14th on KenPom, Virginia's 17th with the latest updates from last night. So Tennessee's actually favored in this game in Vegas, and they're actually favored by KenPom. KenPom has them winning by 1 point, a 51% chance. This is about as even as you can get. Virginia is going to shoot the 3 ball. That's what they do. They don't get to the free throw line a lot. They were 275th in points from the free throw line, but they are 46th in 3-point percentage, and they're 37th in 3-point attempts to field goal attempts. They're going to shoot the 3. They're going to try and hit a lot of 3s. They were 31st in the country in their point distribution from the perimeter. They've got really a 5-out offense. Both their centers can actually hit 3s, and we'll get to them in a minute, but both their centers hit about 1 per game. So they will shoot. Their best player to me is Testa Ritter. He's a 23-year-old freshman. Yes, a 23-year-old freshman. He's a Belgian player. was played professional, a lot like Ethan Berg did in Belgium. He played inside out. He's going to be a matchup problem because of his size and skill. He's averaged this year 15.5 rebounds, talking about 50.5% from the field, 34% from three. He's a guy that is going to cause some matchup problems with his size, with his ability. This is not a freshman. It's not. The 23-year-old professional, and he's a good one. This is a guy who inside the perimeter hit 57% of his shots, and he can play inside out. He can get to the free throw line at a solid rate. This is going to be a tough matchup, whether it's Estrella, maybe they try Okpara with a little more athleticism. If they play small and put Nate at the 4, Nate will get the matchup. What I will say is because Virginia shoots so many threes, they don't get a lot of fouls drawn. This is more of a team that they're not quite drive and kick. They're going to run some sets. Ryan Odom, really good offensive coach, 5-out motion. They're going to run a lot of floppy action. They're going to run, baseline cuts. They're going to do some dribble handoffs, things like that for threes. So you can be a physical with this team. They're not going to attack you to the rim. With that being said, you've got to communicate. Just like they did against Miami Ohio, you're going to have to communicate. There's going to be some switches you have to do. They're going to shoot the ball. Jakari White, we talked about him. He's absolutely a playmaker at the position. He played 30 games this year. He shot 44.7% from three. He's hit 249 threes for his career. This is a guy who will light you up, and he can shoot from anywhere on the court. You have to watch for him. Malik Thomas, 6'5" senior. He can also shoot the ball. He hit 35% of his threes this year. He can also create stuff in transition for them. They don't like to get on in transition, but they can with Malik. He's a good athlete. What I would also say, which is partially because of the way they play, they're 10th in the country in offensive rebound percentage. So they have two guys that they play at 7 feet. Johan Grunlow, 22-year-old freshman. So they have a 23-year-old freshman and a 22-year-old freshman. And Ugana Onyenso is how we'll say that, down the paint. They're both individually top 10 in block percentage, and they're 10th in the country in offensive rebounding percentage. They normally own the paint, which is weird when you think about a team that gets a ton of their shots and their point distribution from the three-point line. But they really shut it down defensively in the paint. They're 16th in the country, KenPom, defensive efficiency. They're second in the country in block percentage. So what Tennessee is going to have to do is they're going to have to hit a couple floaters in the lane from Gillespie. They're going to have to hit a couple mid-range shots, because trying to go up against those two guys who they platoon them. So they're both 7 feet. They're both long. They both have good athletic skills, and they both can block shots, obviously. So Tennessee's going to have to probably be more crafty than we've seen, especially Jacoby, when they get in the lane. Unlike Miami, Ohio, who plays a 6'9" center, Miami, Ohio doesn't block shots. This team will, and they will funnel to the paint. So Virginia will press up on you, play half court, pick you up at half court, play over aggressive. They're okay if you beat them because of their shot blocking. And what they like to do is they'll get physical with you when you're driving, and then they kind of funnel you into their shot blocking. And Virginia's excellent at rotating. They're really good at picking up on rotation. So when that ball's picked up, they shut it down. Their steal percentage isn't very high when you look at it, but that's because they don't play the passing lanes. They just make sure they force tough passes. So you'll see, you saw this against Wright State sometimes. They funnel it in, you pick up your dribble 8 feet from the basket, and then you have to throw it way out 25, 30 feet near half court, because they're determined not to allow any back cuts, any quick handoffs, anything like that. And then you're resetting your offense with 7-6 seconds to go, and you're kind of in no man's land. That's how Virginia is going to play. And I would imagine that's going to be the game plan with Jacoby. What I would say, Tennessee's floppy action, Tennessee's going to have to run a good amount of pick and roll in this game to try and get Grunlow and Onyenso out a little more. I think that could maybe try and force some switches. Virginia doesn't switch much. They're willing to just hedge it and then get and recover. I would try and enforce as many switches as I can with Jacoby, with Estrella and Okpara pick and rolls. A little Nate 1-4 action would also be beneficial. One thing I did notice where Tennessee could have an advantage. So we know Tennessee loves to play too big. Virginia does not play Grunlow and Onsenio together. So Ken Palm does a great job, giving you depth chart over the past 5 games. Over the past 5 games, they have not played together, Onsenio and Grunlow. They've only played at center. They just platoon them. And you look at the numbers as well. That's basically how they do it. They don't play them together. It's basically a 40 minutes down the middle for them. I think you look at the numbers, the minutes per game here, you'll see Grunlow plays 21, Onsenio plays 18.6. So it is literally a 50-50 platoon split, essentially. Although it has been noted that Onsenio is getting a little bit more time than Grunlow, even though Grunlow's been starting. So Tennessee could have an advantage on the glass. They might be able to get some offensive rebounds with Estrella and Okpara, especially out there. Tennessee's going to have 2 guys who are 6'11". DeRidder's a good player. He's got a decent rebounding percentage, but he's not a great rebounder. Tennessee could create some extra possessions here. And it is interesting. Virginia is such a good offensive rebounding team, but they're 104th in the country defensive rebounding. It's not bad, but it's maybe not what you would expect for a team that plays 2 7-footers, and that's top 10 in the country in offensive rebounding. So that would be one thing I would look for. Could Estrella or Okpara, maybe Dwayne Brown, can they use some size advantage, get DeRidder in some foul trouble potentially by crashing the glass, especially because Virginia does not run. So Tennessee can be a little bit more aggressive with their guards coming in and crashing, trying to force some loose balls that Tennessee could get. Virginia does not run a ragged pace. They are one of the slower teams in the country. What's interesting about them, they're 271st in adjusted tempo. They also play their ass off defensively, which makes sense with their block percentage. So 355th in the country for average possession length, so 18.7%. They're going to guard you. They are absolutely going to guard you. Really similar team when you actually look at Tennessee, Virginia, they're very similar. The big difference is Virginia gets their points from 3. Tennessee gets theirs from the free throw line. Virginia does foul a good bit. Tennessee could be aggressive and take advantage with how their shot blockers go after everything. Like I said, we talked about the offense rebounding. The thing I'm very concerned about is the 3-point differential. Tennessee hit 9 against Miami, Ohio. Jacoby hit 6, and Jacoby hit, I'd say about 4 of those were deep contested shots. They're going to have to find other people to hit threes, which has been their Achilles heel all year. Can Nate knock down 2? Can Berg knock down 2? Boswell and Evans, can they hit 1 each? Could maybe Estrella get something late in the shot clock and knock one from the top of the key? To me, you need 6 non-Gillespie threes to survive this game, and Gillespie needs to hit at least 4. I would say for Tennessee to win this game, they at least have to hit 10. I think Virginia could hit 13 or 14. So now you're kind of playing behind. You're getting beat, plus 12, or minus 12 in this case, from the 3-point line. So I would say you cannot play a 2-for-3 game. You cannot get in a situation where you've only hit 5 threes and Virginia's hit 14 because you're offensive rebounding or you're trying to do Jalen carry post-ups. That's not the game this is going to work. They're going to have to hit some threes. They're going to have to win the rebounding matchup for sure. And they're going to have to be a little more creative offensively outside Gillespie. I don't think they need 20 for Nate. I think they can win if he has 10 or 12, but they can't have 0. If Nate's 0 for 5, plays 25 minutes, has 0 points, I can't imagine since he's going to find enough offense to win this game. Virginia's too good from 3-point range. They block too many shots. I think Tennessee would just lose on the possession. I think also Ament's going to have to play some 4, a lot of 4. I think there's a case to be made they should play their 2 big lineup most of this game. I think you would be putting yourself in a bad spot against DeRidder defensively that I would not do that. I would play a lot of Nate at the 4, and I would tell Nate, like, hey, just rebound your ass off. We'll go from there. They need Boswell and Evans to be aggressive. It's 2, crashing the glass, taking advantage of 3-pointers. We mentioned Tennessee's currently the betting favorite. Ken Pom has them as a 1-point favorite. We talked about that. If Tennessee plays defense like they did last night and Gillespie is on fire, they give themselves a great chance to win. I actually think they can beat Virginia. I do. I'm concerned about Ament right now because with the Grunlow, Onyenso platoon at center, I think Tennessee is going to have a hard time scoring outside Gillespie. I think Virginia isn't as strong of a rebounding team defensively as you think. There's an opportunity to crash and get cheap points. But they're going to block some shots. They're going to funnel everything. I wouldn't be shocked if they're trapping Gillespie when he gets to the paint. When he puts foot in the paint, it's a trap. I don't think they'll trap him off pick and rolls. I think that takes away some of their advantage from the shot blocking. But I think if Gillespie gets a foot in the paint, they're gonna converge, and they're gonna force him to get the ball out of his hands, force Berg corner threes, Ament top of the key threes. They're gonna take advantage of that. I'd feel a little better if Nate showed a little more signs of life offensively for me to pick Tennessee. Gillespie will need another monster game, and can Akpar and Estrella at least neutralize Grunlow and Yinso? Maybe not outplay them, but can you make that matchup a 0? Can you make it neutral so Tennessee then needs Gillespie? Can Gillespie outplay DeRitter offensively? That's kind of what I would hope for Tennessee. I think it's going to be a good game. It's at 6:00 TNT Sunday. It should be wonderful game there. Tennessee's trying to get their 4th straight Sweet 16. Odom's trying to reestablish Virginia as a power. I think there's some fun storylines to the game. So I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be a great game. We'll be back on Monday or Tuesday. Whatever happens, whether Tennessee wins or loses, we'll do an end-of-season report, or we'll do a Sweet 16, hopefully Elite 8 preview. So appreciate you guys listening. I just want to get something out for you guys today. Mowing the lawn. It's a beautiful spring day around the country. So mowing the lawn, doing some chores, whatever. Give you a little something to listen to if you're looking for a Tennessee basketball fix. So appreciate you guys, and go Vols.